Good morning, and welcome to my channel. My name is Rashida Dow, and today we're going to talk about mistakes I made when I moved to Mexico and how you could not make those mistakes. I'm also going to talk about some mistakes other people make because you know I like to do that. If you're here for the first time, welcome. My name is Rashida Dow. Like I said, I live in Mexico. I have lived here mostly here since 2019. I can't even say all the time here because I travel a lot. I'm probably in the country maybe somewhere between like 7 months out of the year. I'm in Mexico City where I live, where I am right now. It's my favorite big city in the world. So if you're interested in moving to Mexico or Mexico City, you should hit the subscribe button right now so you can get more information. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay. Hi. Hey to all my regulars. Oh, I almost forgot. If you're part of my membership, I meant to post this last night, but I'm old and forgetful. We're gonna do a Zoom meetup after this. So I'll put that at 1:30 Eastern time, Zoom meetup for the membership. Sorry about that, y'all. I forgot to tell you. But if you're here, I see some of the members here. Aileen, Sarah, Carib Cinnamon, Igami, Glass Half Full, welcome, welcome. I'll talk to you guys after this since we didn't talk on Thursday. People who are members of my YouTube channel get together every Thursday night and chit chat. Hi, Don. We didn't do it this week because I'm sick. I don't know if you can still hear. I'm a little congested. My cleaning lady came yesterday. And I was like, hey, Friday. I was sick this week, but I feel better now. And I had all the doors and windows open just so she knows, like, someone was sick in here. So if you need to take extra precautions, take extra precautions. And she looked at me and she was like, Otra vez? Again? Yes. I was sick in the beginning of November and now I'm sick in the middle of December. Yes, I don't like this. Is it COVID? Who knows? I took a test both times. It was negative both times. But this week was really bad. Like I couldn't breathe out of my nose, like super, super congested. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I started feeling a little bit better. Okay, so we're going to talk about everything you need to know. If I have to leave to go blow my nose, y'all understand. Hey to everyone who's here. Thank you for the super chat, Word Up Psychotherapy. Oh, you enjoy watching? Thank you. Okay, let's get to it. I have a list. I always have a list. Okay, so I see someone say they mask up because they don't want to get sick. I don't go outside that often. So I'm like, how? But I think I might be going back to wearing masks all the time when I'm outside because I've been sick twice in 6 weeks. Why? Well, let's get to it. Mistakes we make when moving to Mexico. All right. Let me double check one thing real quick. Boop, 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 boop. All right. The setting is right. Perfect. Okay. All right. The first thing on my list is not being intentional about the steps I took when I was moving and the timing of those steps. So I got my residency in July 2020. That sounds right. July-ish 2020. Because I was living here in 2019. I went back to the States and it was there for one night before my knee blew out. I needed to get surgery. And I stayed in the US because of the knee surgery, then pandemia. And then when I was like, I want to move back, let me get residency so I don't have to do the back and forth tourist visa thing. I did it in July. I moved back here full time in December. And I didn't clear out my storage unit until 2023, February 2023. Y'all know this because y'all Y'all went along with me. If you don't know the storage unit stories, there's videos on this channel. A mess. Okay, so what that meant was that when I got my residency, there was a time where I could have brought in household goods without any fee, without the customs charge. And I waited until years later to go get the stuff. Now, the reason I had stuff in storage because there was stuff I knew I did not want to get rid of. Right? Art I've been collecting for years that like is not replaceable to me. Stuff like that. And shipping it down cost a lot of money. It would have cost a lot of money either way. But the customs fees, just stupid. Just stupid. A stupid amount of customs fees. And if I had timed it right, if I had gone to get that done in the 6 months after I got my residency, I wouldn't have had to pay those fees. Now, that was something that I made a mistake doing because I knew I wanted things, which is why I had them in storage. I don't think everyone needs to take advantage of that 6-month window because not everyone needs to bring things down with them. A lot of you people are different than me. And you can easily get rid of things. I'm not a person who can easily get rid of things. That's just not who I am. I'm not a person who can easily get rid of things. And so I knew I wanted to bring things down. If I had timed the residency or the actual going to clear out the storage better, I would have saved myself close to $1,000 in fees. And I would have been able to bring more things down. Part of the reason I didn't bring more than $1,000 if I consider the fees I had to pay at the airport and the fees at the actual customs, at the shipping place. I would have been able to bring more stuff down because if I was going to ship stuff, I would have shipped more stuff. Now, I'm also a person who says don't ship things down unless you need them. This is a mistake I made because I know myself and how I live my life. I like my things. And so, yeah. Don't make that mistake. If you're going to do the move, time, and you know you want to bring things down, time your residency and your move down so that you can bring your things down without paying that ridiculous fee. They charge you. When your stuff comes down, they put it in like a little fenced area. I don't know if everybody gets their own little cage, but my stuff was in a cage. This is the description I got. And the customs people, the government charges you for every day it's in the cage. It could be a shared, I don't know the cage situation. It's a cage. Your stuff is in the cage. The customs charges you for every day it's in the cage. But the UPS or FedEx, I think we shipped it down with FedEx. The art shipper. I had to pay for an art shipper who shipped it down via FedEx. The FedEx or UPS guy on this side would contact me like every other, like he would ask for some information, I'd give it to him, and then 2 days later he'd ask me for more information. I'm getting charged every day it's in storage. Why can't we have this conversation in one day? Why aren't we wrapping this up in one day? Why is it taking 10 days or more for you to piecemeal all of this conversation? Piece by piece. I need one thing here. And then 3 days later, I need this thing. 4 days later, I need this thing. 5, 7, 8 days later, you need to pay this amount to this person. And then when they show up at your door, you owe them more money because the amount you paid, there were extra fees on top. This one's real personal, y'all. As you can tell, it's real personal. But now we can get to some things that are less. It's FDM. It drove me crazy. And so at the time when he was doing this 1Z, 2Z kind of, what's your favorite color? Ask questions once a week. I didn't know I was paying daily until they showed up at my door and were like, oh no, that amount you paid, you owe more money on top of that because you get charged for every day. And that's when I was like, wait, I got charged for every day. And he literally would ask me a question on like a Tuesday. I would give him the information. And then on Friday, he'd come back with something else. All right. My second mistake. I think we're gonna get through this pretty quickly. Can we do this in an hour? Let's see. All right. My second mistake was not being intentional about making local friends. You guys know I'm a bit of an introvert. Like I really have to. I think I'm good one-on-one. Being with groups of people wears me out. Talking to strangers unnecessarily is not my favorite thing to do. Because what are we talking about? And why are we having this conversation? And so I feel like I meet people who are local to where I live. And then like we'll exchange contact information, but I never reach out to them because like I don't want to. But it really would come in handy to make local friends so I could learn more about local customs. And if I could do this over, I would have been much more intentional. And people are like, hey, call me. I would actually call them instead of not doing that. When people said, let's get coffee, I'd be like, mm-hmm. I'm the kind of person who's like, yeah, sure. Yes. And it's not that I don't want to, but like me making, like getting the info and then making the plan later on when I could be at home, not getting sick. Like, you guys know what the answer is going to be. I'm going to be at home chilling. FDM says, I connected with friends of friends who lived in Medellin. Last summer, it made a huge difference to my stay. Definitely allowed me to live there for my stay. Yeah. I think that being intentional about making local friends is such a cheat code to being in a new city, wherever that city is. One of the issues, it's a me issue, not really it's a me issue, more than a them issue. But one of the things is that when I meet someone who's from here, the beginning of a conversation is almost the same. Like, you know how in the US, like someone will say like, oh, what do you do? Like, that's like their getting to know you question. And after a while, it can kind of be like, I'm an axe murderer, right? Like, I kidnap kids. Like, what that, like, what does it matter? What do I do? That's the question that comes up over and over and over again because it matters. It matters to some people. Here it's, where are you from? And then like the where are you from question is like the opener to every conversation with a local person, even if it's just someone who sees you on the street, who's like curious. It's always like the other day, a security guard was like, where are you from? No, he said, where do you live? And I was like, I live here. And he was like, no, but where do you live? And I was like, I live here. And he was like, well, where do you live? And I was like, I've lived here for 4 years. And he was like, okay, but where are you from? And I'm like, this is why I struggle with it, because it in my brain, it's the same as the like, what do you do conversation? The same in the fact that like, it's the start of the same conversation over and over and over again. And I need to be more generous about this because I mean, I answered the question. I know why people are asking, but like, you know how it is when it's the same question to start the conversation. It just gets a little old sometimes where I'm like, I'm here. What are you eating? Like, what's that? Like, that's what you know what I mean? Like, let's have an interesting conversation. Where am I going? Where am I from every time? Every time? Where am I from? I get it though. Okay, so my mom and I went to the opera the other day when she was here visiting. And we went to the opera and we were in the very first row. And so we would look down into the orchestra pit. So during we couldn't take pictures during the opera, but during intermission, when they were like packing up, like, you know, getting up, getting stretched, walking out, I was taking pictures. And the guy playing something, one of them big wood things with the strings, was like, where y'all from? In Spanish. I was like, she's from Merida and I live here. And he was like, but where, I know what you're getting to, but after a while, I'm just like, I would like to start a different question, like a conversation a different way. Like, how are you enjoying the opera? So, you know what I mean? Like where I'm from takes precedent over anything else in conversation. And for me, it makes conversation. It doesn't make me like leap into conversations. Like you're playing an instrument in the show. Like you're part of the show I'm here to see. And the opening of our conversation is, where am I from? Okay. Great. So you guys were talking about finding communities in which to make friends, and I suggest that. High Vibe asks, is that another way of asking, why are you here? I don't know. Maybe in context. But it, like truly, when people I don't know talk to me, regardless of the context, 9 times out of 10, it is where it starts with, where are you from? Woo! And it's just, as an introvert already, I don't forget being an introvert. I don't like answering questions. Who else is like that? I don't like answering questions. I don't like being asked questions about. So, Yolanda says it hasn't gotten old yet, but just got here 3 days ago. Okay, but Yolanda, in the 3 days that you've been there, how many times have you been asked that question? Like I said, I need to adjust to it because that's not going to change, right? Like if I was in therapy, the therapist would say, like, okay, but you're not going to change people. You're not going to change people you know. You're not going to change strangers. So what are you going to do about this? Don't ask me. I don't want to. Sometimes I just want to get in the Uber and go where I'm going. I don't want the questions. Where I'm from, how long have I been here? I just want some chicken strips. Like, what's the deal? Okay, so there's this thing that people do, and it kind of drives me insane. Is like I'll say something and people make so many assumptions, like they fill in the rest of the story. And like you could be curious and ask questions. Instead, you fill in the story. Mikhail is here telling me that he has 10 seconds to ask me a question. So that's the best it's going to get, and it's not that deep. That man was down there with nothing to do for 10 minutes, talking to me and talking to his homies. He didn't just have 10 seconds. Like I said, it was the intermission. They were chilling, doing nothing. I had to end the conversation. Y'all could be curious, but instead you make assumptions and you sound stupid. And why do this? Like it bothers me because curiosity is right there. Curiosity is right there. So to tell me it's not that deep and he only had 10 seconds, like you were there, is just, you sound silly. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Don't do that. I promise. There's no point. There's literally no point. Like you were there. Woo, okay. Next on my list. Yeah, I don't see your comment repeating, Sarah. Okay, Locating Cozy says she's been asked 5 times in 3 days. I would expect it less where you are right now. I'm not going to say where you are. I don't know if you've already said it, because it's a very, like, you're in a very tourist area. Okay, next on my list of things that I didn't love. Sarah said, must be the alcohol. Isn't it 9:30 where you are? Not that I'm judging. Not that I'm judging. But is it or is it not 9:30 where you are? Are you somewhere else? Are you not at home? What's happening? Next on my list, not moving exactly where I wanted to. And there's some context here. I love my apartment. I love my apartment. It's 8:21 where she is. Oh, okay. Wait a minute now. I love my apartment. There are things about this apartment I would never change. I would change certain things like the exact location. Now, we talked about this last week, why like moving isn't exactly on my list of things I wanted. I hate moving, number one. I hate moving. But also, things have gotten a lot more expensive now. So if I were to move out of this apartment, I would get less apartment for more money. One of the things we always tell people when moving to, specifically to Mexico City, is you need to move to where the things you want to do are. And it's not that the things I want to do aren't here. I will say they are like most of the things I do are about a 15-minute walk from where I live. It's not bad. A 15-minute walk, okay, that's not a complaint, right? But like I could have moved to where that 15-minute walk is. So I could have moved to wherever places I'm just walking downstairs and doing the things. Mexico City is a city, a very walkable city. It's one of the reasons I love it. And it's something I think you should consider when you're going to move somewhere is like, if you move to a place that's very congested, like Mexico City is, what does it take to go to where you want to go? Like, yeah, a 15-minute walk isn't bad, but the other day where I wanted to go was a little bit more than 15 minutes. It might have been like a 20-minute walk, but I was also wearing like 8-inch platform heels. So I might have done a 5-minute walk in those, right? But not a 15-minute walk. And I do more things in that part of town because that's the part of town that's closest to me that has a lot of stuff going on. Where I am is a little bit sleepier. And I like that it's a little sleepy, but I also wish that I had been more intentional in my apartment hunting. And I just think that when I moved, I knew enough, but I didn't know enough, if that makes sense. Like I knew the different neighborhoods. I knew enough about the city to know that like I was going to be in a good place, and then place was clean and nice. But I didn't realize I walked down the same street all the time, right? Like I walk down, the people on that street know me. I've gotten where are you from? Multiple times on that street because they know me on that street because I walk down the same street multiple times a day to go to the place where I do the things. It's not bad, right? Does It Come in Green has a good suggestion for that. I put my shoes in a bag and changed when I got to the location. But the reason I'm wearing 8-inch platforms is because the pants I was wearing are too long to wear with any other shoes. So, life. I couldn't in that moment. But yeah, normally I'm walking down the street and I end up, because I live in a walkable city, I end up, when I'm buying things for a very walkable lifestyle. Like I rarely buy heels anymore because I probably have to walk to where I'm going. And even if I don't walk to where I'm going, like getting to the next place or like even being outside in front of the place. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. All right. So I'm not moving exactly where I wanted to. And I think that relates a little bit to something I'm gonna say later on. So keep that in mind. The reason I love this apartment is this view. Like there's not a lot of places in the city where you can get the view that I have. I'm in a high-rise building in an area that does not have many high-rise buildings. So yes, what you just heard is gentrification. Ding, ding, ding. You heard that? Got it locked in right there. Yes. Gentrification. But it's the reason I got this view. Like most of the city, most of the way that what I didn't want when I moved was most of the city is like one window looking into another window. Like one apartment looks directly into another apartment, or like across the street into another apartment. And there are people who with binoculars could probably look into my apartment, but it's far, it's like over a block away. If you're working that hard, see whatever you want to see. But like I'm not looking you in the eyes as we're cooking dinner, which was important to me. If I had moved into the neighborhood I'm talking about, I don't know, but I would get this view. I probably wouldn't. It's the thing that everybody talks about when they come to an apartment. They're like, oh, wow, because you just don't get it in the city. And so I do love that. But I do wish I had been more intentional about like looking for this type of place in a location that had everything I already wanted. All right. Number 4 on my list was not creating a slate of professional service providers as soon as I got here. Adelia says she can see what's on her neighbor's dinner table. I can see the mountains, and Adelia can see the peas and carrots. Like it's just, like it's that kind of city. It's very congested. It's very tight, and so it's a trade-off I made. But sometimes I consider the other aspect of it. Like Adelia lives in a really great area for public transportation, and I don't. I can get to public transportation. Buses are easy. Trains are like a 20-25 minute walk. It's a little bit harder to get around, right? So like if I'm in heels, I'm taking an Uber because I'm not walking 20 minutes to get to the. So it's not as it's not as great for public transportation as other areas of the city are. I'm also kind of like on the far end of the city. I'm on the west side. This is such hard. If you don't know Mexico City, it's so hard to describe. I'm on the west side. I am what you could consider the western edge of the city. I'm the western edge of where most people go. You can go further if you have a car. If you have a car, if you have if you're on public transportation, someone was talking to me about someplace up further west, and they're like, "Why don't you ever go out there?" And I was like, "I don't drive." They're like, "Oh yeah, what you would." So there's much more that is further west of me, but it's not as visited. Like I'm on the western edge of where most people go, which is why I can see directly west to the mountains because there's no other there's not a lot out there, like there would be in other parts of the city. How did I get there from not creating a slate of professional service providers right away? That's what I said. I don't know how I got here. Any hoodle. How I got to the west side. Anyhow, not creating a slate of professional service providers right away is big for me. So if I could do it all over again, I would have been looking for doctors for anything I could see myself, anything coming up. I would look for those service providers right away. Like I got my cleaning lady because someone else left and she needed to work. And I was like, yes, please. Thank you. And she's amazing. But every time I've needed like a doctor, like I've got to reach out to people and ask for that specific doctor. I know what my health does. I know the doctors I'm going to need eventually. I didn't have to wait until like it's a crisis to find it. So that's something I wish I had done differently. Doctors have been super easy to find. Doctors here are very accessible. they'll text you, they'll WhatsApp you. My dermatologist is like on WhatsApp, super easy to get to. My other doctors, same way. But waiting meant that for the first year or so, I didn't get the medical care I probably should have, because some of you guys know I have a few chronic conditions, but because they're chronic conditions, it means I've been managing them for like 20 something years. So for the first few years, instead of going to a doctor, I would just manage it myself because I didn't have a doctor. I'll just go get the drugs I know I need. I'll be fine. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just when you're moving somewhere, like, you know what you need. And if there's something else you don't know you need, you can get it at the time when you find out you need it. But for things I know I need, I should have been getting doctors, and I wasn't. I needed a retinal specialist. I needed a gastro doc. I needed all of these things, and I didn't take care of it because I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. There's nothing. Oh, flare. Oh, flare. So finding stuff around here for me has been a lot of like going into Facebook, either asking people who they know, asking people I trust in groups, and then getting in groups and like searching for like some of the groups I'm in. If I was searching for pediatrician and like condesa are the only words I'd have to put into some of these groups, and like a bunch of recommendations would pop up. Danielle says Doctoralia app is also helpful. I haven't used the app. I've used the website a bit, but I think I've only used it to like check information, not to like look for someone. But that's helpful, Danielle, who's in Querétaro. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So doing that early on would have saved me a bit of pain. What else do I want to say about that? I don't know. If I think of it, I'll think of it later. Like I was just talking about the West Side. I don't know. Finding doctors over here is important. Finding doctors on my side, because I told you it takes forever to get to anything else. My dermatologist says, okay, so sometimes I'm like, I just need to know the good doctor. And sometimes I'm like, where are the Black women going? Like when I went to find a dermatologist, I only asked Black women. Who do you trust with your skin? So I saw my dermatologist the other day to get a peel. And I don't know if the issue we had is because what she used on me does not work on darker skin, or it just does not work on my skin. But like, maybe you threw water on my face. Like, what? This did nothing. This did nothing. It was like the lightest, like a little bit of skin fell off every once in a while. And I was like, no, like when I want to peel, I want to shed my skin like a lizard. And that's what you said was going to happen. And that's not what happened. So like, is it that you don't know? Like, is it me and my particular, as a human individual, my skin? Or is that peel not effective on darker skins and you don't know that because you don't have enough darker skin patients? Now this matters because I talked to her about getting laser hair removal on my chin because yes. And she was like, yeah, it's going to be fine. Yes, no, it'll be perfect. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if the issue with the peel is that you didn't know how it was going to work on Black skin, how can I trust you with the laser? How can I trust you with a laser? So this doctor is on my metro line. I walked 20 minutes to get to 20 minutes to get 20 minutes. Let's be real. 20 minutes to get to the metro. She's on my line, but she's at the very, very end of my line. So it takes me like an hour to get there. The peel will take like 15 minutes at the most. That's checking in and checking out, and then an hour to get home. But I know she's had Black patients who recommend her. Okay, so Sassy Travel Goddess says not everyone sheds like a lizard. I shed like a lizard with the right peel. So I had one peel with her, and I know myself. I peel. I've been getting peels for a long time. I shed like a lizard with the first peel with her, and then months later, I came in for another peel. And that peel was like the easy light peel, and I was like flaking off, right? And then this was supposed to be a step up, and it was like boop, boop, some skin's coming off, boop, 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 boop. So it was a different kind of acid, and it was supposed to do something different. So I don't know what was going on, but it didn't do what she said it was going to do on my skin. She said, yes, your skin is going to come off more than last time. It did not. So now I'm like, can I trust you with a laser on my skin? She did a test on my arm and it was fine. So we'll try the chin, because this beard, it's not even the hair growing in. It's that we're not talking about Mexico right now. We're just talking about chin hairs. I always get ingrown hairs with my chin hair. It's right here. I always get ingrown hairs, and the ingrown hairs end up leaving dark spots. And so I have a lot of dark spots on my chin, and that's what I want to get rid of more than I actually want to get rid of the hairs. Because the hairs I can get rid of myself, right? Like, boop, 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 gone, right? But it's there. They always grow ingrown. And I'm like, I got to, get in there and get them out. And then I got to cut. So I definitely want thing. And the price was right. So I need to talk to her about that. All right. 5th on my list. We got segued into all kinds of stuff. 5th on my list is not implementing a plan to learn Spanish. I came here and I wanted to get a Spanish tutor. And it was very, very important to me. It was important to me that I got someone who grew up in Mexico City to teach me Spanish. Because I don't want to learn Spanish how they speak it in Argentina. If you know, you know. I don't want to learn Spanish how they speak it in Spain. That's not relevant to what I need to do here. I need to do stuff here. So I want to learn how y'all say the words here. And I had a tutor, and we worked for a couple months, but I would have an issue and I couldn't meet our usual meeting, and then she would have something, her kids and this, and we couldn't connect, and we just didn't connect enough, so much that it just didn't work. It just didn't work. And then I was kind of like, okay, I'll learn on my own. No, I wasn't even I'll learn on my own. I will learn it by immersion. Because I'm here and everyone speaks to me in Spanish. Except, hold on one second, because my nose is oh, here we go. Let's do this off camera. You can still hear me. The congestion is, okay. So, all right. So, there's this thing that happens here in Mexico City. When I first came here, I did not interact with a lot of people who spoke English. I had to know enough Spanish to do what I needed to do. But now I think because more foreigners are coming down, or a greater number are staying here for a longer time, more people are learning Spanish or coming here who know English. More people, I'm interacting with more people who speak more English. And if they speak English, they will not speak to me in Spanish. I was at a restaurant the other day with Adelia. And we were talking to the waiters just fine in Spanish, doing all the stuff. And then a woman came over, and I knew that this lady, whatever she needs to say, something I need to fully understand. So she was like, "Do you want it in Spanish or in English?" And I was like, "Why don't you give it to us in English?" Just because, like, I know that she was the one we needed to tell what we didn't eat, and I don't eat some stuff. Adelia doesn't eat some other stuff, so we need to be very clear with what the conversation we're having with her. And it was more like I wanted to understand what she was saying, more of I can tell her I don't eat what I don't eat. Adelia can tell her what she doesn't eat. But we needed to understand what she was saying to us because the chef was doing something special. The chef was doing something special in the back for us. The chef was doing something special. And so we needed really clear communication. She spoke in English. After that, no one in the restaurant would speak Spanish to us. Like they would speak to us in English and we would respond to them in Spanish. And they would come back and speak to us in English and we respond to them in Spanish. And it was like, I can't maybe we're both in a situation where we want to learn. Maybe that's what's going on. But none of us are really learning right now when we're not having this full conversation in either one of the languages. Because when we got here, everyone spoke Spanish to us. And the minute we spoke English to anyone, it was like, that's it. They speak. Our first menu was in Spanish. And it was fine. When we got a second menu later on, after speaking to that lady in English, it was an English menu. And if you've been here, you know that the English menu is generally English menus have very poor translations. The English menu had all kinds of Spanish words on it. I was like, oh, it's Spanish. I was like, oh no, that is English. Because I was like, that's a Spanish. Nope, that's not. So it just, I'm not learning by immersion the way I thought I was going to. And so having a plan of what I was going to do to learn before I got here, and then implementing this plan instead of keeping this plan in my head would have been very helpful. Because between the time that I stopped working with my Spanish tutor, and pretty much now, I've always been like, oh, I'm going to take a class at UNAM. Maruka mentioned UNAM, which is a university here, and they have classes. Some that are a 15-minute walk away from where I am. And I was like, I'm going to do it. But every time the classes that fit best in my schedule are in Exodus Summit season. And guess what I can't do in Exodus Summit season? They do 4 or 5 hours of classes a day. Guess who can't do that in Summit season? Stephanie would be like, don't you have a job? What do you... Are you coming to work today? And the answer would be no. I'm learning Spanish. And the rest of the time, I'm not consistently in the country enough to sign up. So that's been something I've wanted to do, but I haven't had a plan. And then I was like, oh, I should do an immersion course and blah, blah, blah. But then I should also go to Portugal or South Africa, which is coming up soon in February. And so I haven't done that. And I think that you should. Before you move here, you should have a plan. You should be learning Spanish, and you should have a plan for how you plan on continuing to learn Spanish when you're down here, because immersion is not going to cut it. It's just not. Unless you're already super fluent. If you speak Spanish at home, but you just need to tighten up some things, maybe immersion would get it, but a tutor would be better. I'm here all the time. And my Spanish is better than it was years ago, but Every time I tell someone, I'm like, I've been here for 4 years. It's like, really? Was that Spanish? The first few years I was here were part of the pandemic years, and we weren't talking to nobody, and there were masks on. We couldn't hear. It was a lot, you know how life was. All right. Okay, so now I want to talk about the mistakes I see other people making, and I want to talk about how we can not make those mistakes. This first one. I was on the phone with a woman from Apple once. Adele says she's very embarrassed to tell people how long I've been here. Yeah, you don't learn by immersion here. Because first of all, I only understand 1 out of every 3 words you're saying at the speed you're speaking at. And when I ask you to slow down, you just look at me like I'm an idiot and keep going at the same pace. I'm not expecting that to change. I'm just saying I'm not learning. I'm not learning. Okay, mistakes. I was on the phone with a woman from Apple. And I was asking her when I was making this appointment, like, what, and she told me this time. I'm like, what time zone is this in? Is like the appointment you're giving me, is this in like the official Apple time zone in like Menlo Park? Or is it like the time zone I'm in right now? And she was like, basically, according to her, there was only one time zone in Mexico and it was West Coast. And I was like, the reason I've asked you this question 3 times is because there's more than one time zone. Like, I don't, if I was in the same time zone as you, this wouldn't be a question. This wouldn't be the big question I keep asking. And she's like, there's only one time zone in Mexico. And I was like, ooh, okay, so this is our disconnect here. And I was like, no, actually, there's more. She got mad at me and was like, well, how am I supposed to know that? I'm like, I didn't say you were supposed to know that. I said, when I'm looking at this on the computer, which time zone is it giving me? The time zone I'm in or the time zone you guys typically operate in? What's happening? So what's my point here? People think Mexico is much smaller than it actually is, which I get all the time. People will be like, oh, and there's people who like don't know me through this world. People who know me for like old world. When wait, I'm so sorry. I gotta share this. Danielle said our clean lady told us no when we asked her to slow down. Yes, that's it. That does not surprise me at all. Girl, catch up. Anyhow, people from my old life will be like, oh, I'm gonna be in Cancun. Is there any like, can we see each other? And I'm like, it's a couple hours on a plane, a day on a bus. So no, it's unlikely that we're going to see each other if you're going to Cancun. Because while I live like generally in the middle of the country, that's like me being in the Bay Area and you saying you're going to be in Texas. Will we see each other? No, we won't. We won't. It's not gonna. It's Texas to Florida, basically. We're not gonna see each other. It's not gonna happen. Denise says Americans think Mexico is Cancun. Yeah, no. People think it's 2 things about. There are a lot of stereotypes about Mexico that I think hurt people who are moving down here. And it's not their fault, right? Like, you watch enough Netflix and you'll know that Mexico is sepia toned. It's very dusty and there's tumbleweed rolling through everywhere. But I actually don't ever see tumbleweed because I live in a city. I also get comments from people. I'll never forget the woman who was like, I know there's snakes. How do you deal with the snakes? And I was like, the closest equivalent, like American equivalent to Mexico City is New York City. Not from like temperature, but like the cityness of it. Like, do you see snakes in New York City? I know there are snakes. How do you deal with the snakes? And I was like, what do you think this is? We don't even really have insects. I mean, we have insects here, but because we're at a very high altitude, we don't get a lot of insects. There are no like lizards running through our parks, right? Like, and so what happens is people come down here and they think that a lot of cities, the only difference is the name. Like this city and this city are pretty much going to be just alike, right? And it's like, no, you have to do a little bit more research. We've got a lot of, not a lot, I'm not going to say this. We've got some Fort Lauderdale's-ish places, right? We've got some New York City type places. We've got everything. And we've got, where it snows in parts of the country. It's jungly in other parts of the country. There's enough things that are different in climate, weather, in types of city, in the food that is native, local to that region, that you really need to be specific about what you're looking for when you move down here, because each city is not going to be like it does not make sense to me the way people think all these cities are the same thing. It's wild to me. Like this is not that. It's not. Like you can move. If you move to Merida, where my mom lives. My mom lives in Merida because she loves Mexico City, right? But it's nothing like Merida. And so people coming down and not thinking about what they want from a city or what's most important to them, but like for a while, I'm not going to say right now, for a while, a lot of people were moving to Merida because it's inexpensive, or it was supposedly inexpensive. Is it inexpensive when you have to run your air conditioning every day because it's like 117 degrees outside? Is it inexpensive? Turns out it wasn't. And some of those people went home because what is this? Right? All the time in the Merida Facebook group, people are like, my electricity bill, I wasn't expecting this. Yes. It's one of the reasons I could never live there. The weather to me is terrible. My mom likes the heat. So she's always outside somewhere doing something. Not into it. So part of your move to Mexico should be figuring out the things that are important to you and that you're looking for. And then figuring out the cities that have those things. Like not moving to a city because someone else likes it, right? Like I love Mexico City. I'll be the first one to tell you it's not for everybody. That traffic, man. Some of y'all not gonna make it simply because of the traffic. Some of you because of altitude, right? People always talk about the air. People, not so much anymore, but people for a long time always said the air quality here is bad. If you look at an air quality map, Mexico City air quality isn't that bad. But because of the altitude and how thin the air is, it hits you a little harder. It hits you a little tiny bit harder because you're already struggling to breathe sometimes because it's so high, right? If the air is not like pure oxygen, you're going to struggle it's going to hurt a little more. So yes, every city has its different thing. There are different regions, and those different regions are going to bring you different things from a food perspective, culturally, language-wise. You're going to get different things in different regions. You're going to get a different level of welcome based on what's going on like in the region. And so you need to think about what your priorities are and not go places because other people like it. All right. Next on my list of mistakes people make, I feel like Adelia had a video about this. Jay said her cousin was asking about the beaches. People ask me all the time, What's the closest beach? It don't matter because it's a flight away. Like it really does it matter what's the closest beach if any beach is a flight away? I mean, you could drive to Acapulco. I can take a bus to Puerto Vallarta. It's gonna take me a day. Does it matter what the closest beach is? If the closest beach is a day's bus ride or a flight away, it don't matter. It don't matter what the closest is. Just pick one you like and go there. Because we're not close by. We are not. FDM says she was feeling the lightheadedness. Yeah, the air, it's not even the quality of the air anymore, because they've done a great job creating like these, adding a lot of greenery to the cities, especially around like some of the freeways. They've planted lots of plants. But with that altitude, it's not for everybody. All right. Next on the list, renting before you see a place. Some people are so excited to move in that they will rent a place sight unseen. I know Adelia's talked about this. I know I've talked about this before, so I'm going to say it again. Renting in Mexico is... I don't know what to say. Renting in Mexico is not like... I can't find the words, y'all. Okay, renting in Mexico is trying to find a place that fits your needs, fits your budget, you feel good in, and doesn't have something one of your senses doesn't like, right? So like, if you're only seeing photos, how do you do the smell test? And you need to do the smell test. You need to know what it smells like. Because a lot of these old pipes will have a place smelling like old sewer. And you can't see that in the video. In the video tour you take, you can't see that, right? You don't know what's across the street. You don't know how loud it is. I am around the 30th floor of my building. I'm very vague about where I live, obviously. I'm around the 30th floor. There's a school close by. Occasionally, I can hear men. It's always men playing football out there. They are so loud that with my windows closed, I can hear them screaming and playing soccer at night. What is this? What is this? Why are you being so joyous when I'm trying to go to sleep that I can hear you? The other thing, every once in a while, I can hear a party happening. I'm going to tell Adelia, this is for you. I'm adding this to our to-do list. The other day, I've been on a 7-hour walkabout. Don't ask. I had some work I needed to do, which was kept me in the streets. Yes, at night, they out there screaming with the lights on in the middle of the night. I'm on the 30th floor-ish, and I hear them screaming at night, playing soccer. Don't you have families to go home to? Any hoodle. I'm a 7-hour walkabout. I was getting closer to home, and I heard Somebody was having a party. Where could this party possibly be? Where could this party possibly be? I don't understand. I'm like, geographically, where this party, this doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe the party was under the freeway underpass. It was under, it's usually a locked area. They opened it up. They put tables in. There was a stage. There was a band. There were lights. There was alcohol. I walked in and stuck my head in, and they were like, everyone turned. Like, it's a Negro. Okay, but like, no, everyone's fine. And I'm standing at the gate, and the guy was like, go in. And I'm like, okay, okay. So I go in. I go in. But like everyone's sitting at tables. So to hang out, I'm going to have to join someone's table by myself. My feet hurt, my legs hurt, back, lower back, everything hurts. I'm mid 40s and I've been walking for 7 hours. Everything hurts. So I'm like, okay, what's happening here under the underpass? And how is there a party that all these people have shown up to? What's going on? I'll come, I look, I take some photos, I make a note, but like, because Daly and I were just talking about how we need to go to more local parties. So I was like, well, this is local as shit. So how do I figure out what's going on and get to the next one of these? Under the underpass with the tables and chairs. Okay. They got a band. There's a man from the band. Sure, I don't know if he's naked, but I see top up, shirtless, changing in the van. And he looks at me like, what are you doing here? You're naked. What? Why are you looking at me? Do what you doing. Okay. I go home. They're a block past the school, more than a block past the school where the guys are playing. I'm on the 30th something floor. I can hear them. I can hear the music until wee hours of the morning. That's how loud they were. At least 2 blocks away, maybe like 2.5, 3 blocks away. I'm high up. That's how loud the music is. Now they were jamming. The band, the lights, the men, the beer, the people at the tables, the abuelas looking at me like, where'd she come from? And it wasn't like a family. There were like at least 100 people, maybe more, maybe like 150, 200 people back there under the underpass in the area that's normally fenced in. Now, I say you need to figure out, you can't just rent something on site, because even though I was here, I did not take into account the fact that if I can hear horns blowing on the street, when I visited the place, I wasn't paying attention to sound. But I know that there's no chance someone didn't drive by and honk. If I can hear someone honking a block away, I'm going to hear the music from everybody all the way away, because there's no soundproofing in here. There's none. There's no soundproof. There's negative soundproofing. I think they leave like holes so that you can hear sound. I think that's what's going on. If a baby coughs in the hallway, I can hear it. If a dog pads down the hallway with some nails, it's like it's in here. The sound, I don't know what it is about this building, but the sound from outside, it's all here. So when you go look at a place, you need to be listening, right? It's not just, is it noisy? It's like, how much is the neighborhood noisy? Your neighborhood's probably going to be noisy, but how much noise do you hear when you're inside? What do you smell when you're inside? I live close to a chocolate factory. I have never seen this chocolate factory, but it is like the smell of the chocolate. So I'll open my window and now it smells like baked chocolate chip cookies, like just a little. It smells like someone just burnt the cookies just a little bit. Is just in my. You have to, and I love my place. And I love my place. When I came to my building, the realtor showed it to me, opened up all the windows. You know why? She knew if she left them closed, eventually I'd smell the smell from the guest bathroom. You need to visit these places yourselves because it's not like every place you're used to in the US. And that's something that I actually I'm going to skip something and go there, which is assuming even the smallest thing is going to be like what you're used to come from home. Assuming, like, you can't assume that anything is like wherever you're coming from. The plumbing isn't even the same, which is why you get the smells. There's a bunch of dogs outside right now. I can hear, you probably can't hear them, but I can hear a bunch of dogs outside right now. Yeah, you got to check out the place in the daytime. You got to check out the place at night. Some places look nice in pictures, but in reality, not so much. I looked at a place. I went inside the apartment. I've told the story here before. Loved it, loved it, loved it. One of the things about Mexico City is that specific types of stores tend to group together. So like kitchen appliance stores, lighting stores. 20-minute walk from me is like the wedding dress store, right? Like neighborhood, right? Like boom, all these places are together. That place was in Rims for Cars block. There was a rim shop on one side of it in the building, another one on another side, a school across the street. Now y'all know I do not want to live close to a school. The school that's close to me now is a block away. I can live with that. But like across the street from my front door, and it was during COVID, so there weren't any kids there. But unless I'm going to burn the school down, there's going to be some kids there eventually, right? Like eventually. Now the thing with the rim shop, which is really, because there were no kids at the school wasn't as big a problem as the rim shop, because what it meant was that there were a lot of men just standing around. And that's not something you see in Mexico City. You don't see men just standing around doing nothing. But like in front of every shop, there were like 4 or 5 men just standing there doing nothing, just watching. And I was like, I can handle like 2 or 3 of the homies, right? Like, hey, it's too many of y'all not doing anything and standing right here for my comfort level. It's too, right? But you wouldn't know that if you saw it online. It was beautiful. Pictures, great. Exactly what I needed. I love it. What all these dudes doing? Like, I look around on this block, I'm seeing like 20 men not doing anything, just standing there. As a woman who lives alone, this is not what I want to see. This is not what I want. Why are you just, what's going on in your world that you just hanging out here? I don't get it. I don't get it. So so those are the little things that, like, for me, like, it seems like common sense. Anywhere you go, you want to see the place that you are, like, you don't want to rent something that's sight unseen. But I think people take more risk here because they feel like they don't want to come down without a place. Or like my mom rented a place without seeing it. She had her friends go look at it first. And the first place, there was some nonsense. A little bit of nonsense. Can't do it. Look, like, even Don't even, and she sent people to look for her. That's not good enough. Especially because who do you trust to find the place that is going to have the exact same criteria that you have? No one's going to have the exact same criteria, right? Like for me, it was the view. I saw the view and I was like, okay, what's the price? Hi. Hey, this is it, right? I pay attention to noise or anything where I should have done. But you have the time to look. So take the time and look. Don't rent a place before you get down here. Because when it smells like an outhouse, who are you going to be mad at? Like I'm going to say this. I came here myself. I did not smell the bathroom. My mom didn't smell the bathroom because it was open and airing out. If someone else came and I'd relied on them and they were like, oh, I didn't smell it, I'd have been like, what you mean you ain't smell it? You don't smell it? But it's a different situation, right? Like the windows were open, blah, blah, blah. When it gets closed in there, when it gets closed up too much and the cover isn't on the shower floor, what you mean you ain't smell that? You don't smell that? You got to. All right. Don't assume anything is going to be like, this is the bigger thing. Don't assume anything is going to be like what it is at home. Even the smallest thing can be so different. And I think we see that a lot with like people driving down who are like, oh, that's not a big deal. It's a big deal. Everything's a big deal. If there's like a rule about it, you're probably doing it wrong. You just don't know. You deal with, right? Like you deal with it. It's not a big deal. Things happen, but everything is different. Just assume it's different until you know otherwise. I saw something the other day. It was like randomly against law, and I was like, I would have never guessed that. How would you know? How would you know? How would you know? Oh, this is actually good. I don't have AC here, so I don't know this. I wouldn't have known this. Samira says, the place I rented in Playa, the sewer smell would come out only when you run the AC. Ask to run the AC when you visit. I would have never known that because I don't have air conditioning. Also, in Mexico City, you're probably not going to have air conditioning or heater unless you move into there may be like 5 buildings in the city that have it, like rental buildings. Okay. People always coming here. The moving the money thing can be very challenging. And I see a lot of people who say, oh, I'm like moving all my money from the US. I'm going to put it in a Mexican bank. Or, I've got to open a bank account because, boop, 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 boop. Okay. What I also see, this is a mistake I see people making, is do I have heat in my building? I have space heaters in my apartment. I have fans in my apartment. In my living room, I have a fan and a space heater right now because December, January, February is a toss-up. What am I going to need? What's happening? We'll see. Okay, what I see with money is people who have money in Mexico, when they want to leave, they can't do anything with their pesos. I need to wire my pesos to an account in Germany, but Wise won't do it. So, you know what I mean? Like these places, the money transfer companies, generally people get stuck with pesos because they can't wire them to places. The same way you could wire dollars in isn't the same way you can wire pesos out. And so you see people getting stuck a bunch with money and they're like, I don't know what to do because I can't wire this money anywhere. So I always tell people, like, don't shut off your banking arrangements in the US. What I do is I have enough money to last whatever I need. I access in a US bank. I don't have a Mexican bank account. My first reason for not having in a Mexican bank account is that almost every time I walk past a bank, I see a line that looks like it's hours long. Imagine waiting hours to do a bank transaction, or because there's an issue, because money went missing, because something's wrong. So you can't just do an ATM thing or an online thing. You have to go to the bank. And then you go to the bank. And with my Spanish, I have to maneuver through what happened to my money. I don't want to do that. So I don't have a Mexican bank account. I have a US bank account. I get out cash when I need it. I have a Charles Schwab account and I have a Fidelity account. I have said this before. Fidelity is currently paying such a higher interest rate on deposits than Charles Schwab is that I'm almost entirely using my Fidelity account. And I'm moving away from Charles Schwab now. Moving away from Charles Schwab. I've been talking about them for a long time, but I'm moving almost entirely to Fidelity. Their cash management account. I don't want to have a bunch of money down here that I have a hard time using. Now, if my landlord only accepted cash, maybe that would be a reason to have a bank account down here, although I don't think so. I think I would just go to my US ATM and just get money out, get the most money out I could each day for a couple of days and do that. But I see it come up more and more frequently. People are like, I need to move my pesos out of Mexico and I'm having a hard time. So about something, it's a mistake I see people making. And I'm like, if you're working here and you're getting paid in pesos, it makes sense. But hoarding a whole bunch of them down here, what you gonna do with them? What you gonna do with them? I don't know how they resolve their issues. Because people are like, people in the Facebook groups, they'll suggest something, but they don't know that works. They're just like, I think it works. Like, oh, just use Wise. And the person's like, in my comment, I said, in my post, I said I tried to use Wise, but this doesn't work because. And they're like, oh, well, and they're like, no, I can't. I'm looking for it. Don't tell me any money transfer place will do it because I can't find a money transfer place to do it. So yeah, so I see people getting stuck in like the banking arrangements, really because they're a lot of times very like, I live here, I must have a local bank account. And you don't have to have one. I keep enough pesos to pay my cleaning lady and buy tacos. Anything else I do on my credit card, or I transfer money to my landlord through like Zoom. I could use Wise for that because I'm transferring the dollars into pesos. All right. Guess what, guys? You guys asked about the earrings last time. You always ask about the hair. I started a like to know so that I can give you guys all that information in one place. And it is in the thingy. Today's look is posted there. If you're on like to know it, follow me. It's new. But that way, when I go live, hopefully I'll have stuff so you can get the exact links. Adelia says, I think the anti-money laundering laws also complicate banking. Mm-hmm. How do you sign up for Mexican versions of services if you don't have a Mexican bank card? I pay for everything I need to pay for with a US credit card or a US debit card. I have not needed a Mexican bank card for anything. The only place where I have I don't think I've tried my debit card, but I've tried my US debit card. I've tried my US credit card and been declined. Is the Pilates studio. And at the Pilates studio, I just walk over there and I can pay in person. They have a card reader in person, but a lot of Mexican websites have trouble with foreign cards. So sometimes people will ask, like, is that a foreign? I remember where I was the other day and they're like, is that a foreign card? And it was like, yeah. They're like, okay, we need this other machine. But yeah, if I have a problem paying with a credit card, I switch to a US debit card and it works. Like I was going to, Adelia and I were going to a museum and I was trying to buy tickets and it rejected every single credit card I had. And I didn't realize what the problem was. I had we had like five. It's one of those museums where they sell like 10 tickets a week. And I was right there, speedy on time. And I had to buy it right now. So I was like, Adelia, I need your credit card information to buy this. And then as like a last minute thing while she's sending it to me, I tried my US debit card and my debit card worked. So generally that's what I do. If my credit card doesn't work, my debit card works. Like Adelia said, most Mexicans don't have bank cards, so it isn't necessary. My cleaning lady is late 30s, early 40s. I don't know. She doesn't have a bank account. If I need to send her money because something happened, like we didn't connect in person for her to get money, or maybe whatever reason I don't pay her in cash, I have to send the money to someone else's bank account. It's always a man. And I don't ask about the relationship there. I don't know if she's getting all the money. I don't know what's going on, but not only does she not have a bank card, she doesn't have a bank account. A lot of Mexicans are unbanked. So, okay, Jade, this is a great question. When visiting Mexico, would you suggest I get a large amount of pesos before arrival or to use a no-fee debit card when there? I would always say a no-fee debit card. While here, I go to the ATM and I get whenever I go to a new country, I go to an ATM, usually at the airport when I get there, and I get out the equivalent of about $100 worth of cash, no matter how long I'm going to be there, about $100 worth of cash. And then when that runs out, I get another 100, another 100, another 100. Because I honestly, no matter where in the world I am, I tend to use bank cards. I tend to use my credit card to charge everything, just so I can see how much I've spent. The number one type of crime you will face that is prevalent in Mexico are petty crimes. And so I would always say don't grab a lot of pesos out because you're more likely to get pickpocketed than anything else. And so don't walk around with a bunch of money because when it's gone, it's gone. I think I've told you guys here before about the old lady who tried to rob me. But I had just been like a month before that, I had been pickpocketed in Vietnam, right? And someone tried to steal my camera from my hand in another city in Vietnam, which is why I don't mess with Vietnam like that. And so when she and her homies were trying to steal my wallet from my purse, I was like, oh, baby, you got to work harder. You got to work harder for this. This is not the effort. This is not the effort we need to see. We need more than this. This isn't, you got to work harder to rob me. Maybe one of these other people. But when you drop all your change out of your coin purse on the ground, and you're so old and frail that you can't bend down to pick it up, and so you need me to move away from my purse and bend down and pick it up while your homie sitting next to my purse right here, I'll be watching you. Because you came into this restaurant with two men. So if you're too old and frail to pick up your change, I recommend that one of these men you came in with picks it up for you. Because I'm not moving. Because at this point, I'm literally the only person in this restaurant. I'm the only patron in this restaurant. It's me and a waiter. We're the only people here. I'm hanging out. One guy's blocking the waiter's view. So he can't see what's going on. And one guy comes and sits he's been sitting there for a while. Sits. There are 8 empty tables. I'm sitting at a long wall. He comes and sits directly next to my purse, like arm's reach away from my purse in the table next to me. All these other seats right here. And we're in a shared bench now. And I think a long table. It's a long table. So we're at the same table, a long table, when all these other empty tables are there. One guy's inside blocking the waiter's view, and the woman drops her change. I was like, oh, look. That's unfortunate. And I grabbed my purse and pulled it. Because at first I was like, I don't want to pull my purse closer and act like I don't trust this man sitting here. But also my spidey sense says. So the change falls and I feel my purse move a bit. And I was like, okay, that was all I needed. Like you put your hand on. You didn't get anything out, but you put your hand on. I felt because it was touching my leg, I felt the bump on the other side of it. I just got robbed in Vietnam. You're going to have to work harder. You're going to have to work harder to rob me here because it just happened to me a couple months ago. A friend of mine came and someone squirted her with like mustard, and then someone else came and like, oh, let me help wipe you off. And then while they're wiping her off, I don't know if it was the person who was wiping her off or someone else reached into her purse and got her wallet. They got her wallet. They got her stuff. She lost all the cash, but she got her ID and stuff back because someone found it and reached out and whatever. But yeah, no, like the most common crime is that kind of petty theft, right? It's unlikely that someone's gonna like pull a gun on you. But if you leave your laptop at a table and go to the bathroom, what laptop? What happened? I don't know. Listen, I go to the bathroom unless I've been there for a long time and I know someone is there, like we are here together. I put everything in my bag before I get up and go to the bathroom. I come back and I unpack it again. Just because we had there's no conversation needed once I do that, right? Like, because if I come back and my stuff isn't where it is and the person I asked to watch it is still, no, I pack up all my stuff. Because like petty theft is the thing. People will be at, I've seen a bunch of security footage and this guy was sitting at a table and his bag was underneath the table and it was gone. So no, limit the change, get the cash here because stuff moves around. Okay. Sassy Travel Goddess says, surprise, surprise. The only thing in my purse will be 102 pens, hand sanitizer, and tissues. That's how nurses pack a purse. So enjoy pickpocket, folks. Listen, this is not going to work out the way you want it to. You might get me for a little bit, but not a lot. Not a lot. Unless you can get my whole bag. If you can get my whole bag, I'll be mad. It's why also Adelia and I and Ivana went and got our driver's licenses. So that when I walk around, that's the ID I use. I use my driver's license for ID. Even when I'm flying in the country, I don't use my my green card, my residency card, because losing that is like a whole process you got to go through to get a new one, and it's a big deal. Driver's license is like, I just had to show up to get it. To get a new one, I'm not going to do much more, but just showing up again. But it's why I don't carry my residency card, because I know that like my wallet could go missing, or I could just lose it, right? Who knows? All right. I feel like we've covered it for the day. Like I said, if you're on Like to Know, follow me. I dropped the link in the chat. It's also saved in the video description. The earrings are in there. The necklaces are in there. The makeup look and the hair products are in there too, because I washed my hair this morning. And it's just 2 products in here. 2 products and a lot of water. Okay. I think that's it. Simi says I have a burner phone. It's pretty old, so not very interesting. You don't know what people will take. Helene has a small crossbody purse. Yeah. That's another important point when you're moving anywhere is like know the type of crimes that happen there. Right? What's the likely type of crime that I might experience? Petty theft. Your stuff goes missing. But like I feel safe at home. No one's gonna run in my house. No one's gonna run up in my spot, right? Like I feel safe. Also because of where I live, office security, whatever. Like, and I don't feel like anyone's going to like snatch my bag away from me. It's going to be more like she's not looking. We can get that kind of a thing. All right, we good? All right, those are mistakes I made. Those are mistakes I don't want you to make. Did I miss anything? Y'all tell me. Let's. I'm gonna wait for 30 seconds. Is there any other mistakes that I'm missing that we haven't talked about right now? Moving to Mexico, moving anywhere. People love the travel on purses. I don't have any, but people seem to love them. Oh, Nova natural disasters. Dara, I actually owe you a call about something else. Yes, the natural disasters. People in Mexico City freak out about earthquakes, and it's so funny to me because I grew up in Southern California and then I moved to the Bay Area, like an earthquake, if there's any disaster I want, make it be an earthquake. Like I remember when I was in the Midwest and there were tornadoes, I was like, I'm not built for this. On the first time that we were going to get like snow when I lived in Virginia, I went to my friend's apartment and I was like, I'm here all weekend because you know what to do when it's snowing and I don't know what to do. So I'm not going to do this by myself. I just showed up at her apartment like, here I am. They say it's going to snow. So I'm here because you live here. Now, an earthquake, I'm like, all right. Am I still alive? Okay, then like for me, it's not worth talking about. But if you're not an earthquake person, this is a very, very big deal. Okay, Danielle Smith has a good one. Not joining the neighborhood WhatsApp until I needed to. I miss a hold on a current to the hood. I don't know that there might be a neighborhood WhatsApp. Is your neighborhood WhatsApp in Spanish or English, Danielle? I'm curious about that. Did you experience the 2017 earthquake in Mexico City? No, but I have been experiencing a lot of earthquakes my whole life, Southern California. And so are we okay? We're fine. And so when the WhatsApp chats start like popping off about the earthquake, I'm always like I'm not dismissing anyone's experience, but I'm very much like, okay, we're alive. Like it's all right. It's all right. It shook a bit and then stopped shaking. Also, I feel like so Dara said no to natural disasters, but I also feel like if you are afraid of a very specific natural disaster, you should not move to a place where it happens. So there are people who come to Mexico City who are deathly afraid of earthquakes. And I'm like, baby, this is not for you. Cause I have heard people say, woo, Adelia. Wait a minute. It's not her saying it, but she's gonna know what I'm talking about. I have heard people say that they leave the city, they leave Mexico City during earthquake season in September and they come back. And I'm like, earthquake season isn't a thing. Number one. Earthquake season isn't a thing, and leaving and then coming back doesn't really help if you have enough of a fear of earthquakes that you don't want to be here in a season where you think they happen more than usual. Like if you cannot handle earthquakes and so you don't want to be here in earthquake season in September, what are you going to do when we have like 5 earthquakes in a week in December? How there is no such thing as an earthquake season, first of all. It's not a thing. But because Mexico City has been hit with a number of earthquakes in September, and some of the major ones have happened in September, people have started calling September earthquake season. And it's like, okay, what are we calling December now when we've had like 5 in a week? Like we had 3 back to back to back one day this week. I think we had 5 earthquakes this week. I felt 1 or 2 of them. I didn't get out. It was during my nap time. Both of them, I didn't get out the bed. One of them this week, my bed is next to a mirror. It's not under a mirror, but it's next to a mirror. And I was like, one of them was bad enough that I was like, I should move away from this mirror. So I got out of the bed for that. And then 10 seconds later, I was back in the bed because it was over. Yeah, Miss Kelly says earthquakes happen all day, every day. You just don't feel them. Yes. Yes. We had 3 earthquakes in one day outside of earthquake season. So if you have a fear of a natural disaster, don't go to a place where geographically it could happen. Like, yes, there are hurricane seasons, but also hurricanes can happen at the very, very beginning before you expect it or after you expect it. Don't do that, right? Like if there is a natural disaster that petrifies you, don't move to a city where it might happen and think that, oh, I'll just spend a month at a town and it'll be fine. Because that's not a thing. That's not the magma and the this and the that and the waves and the this and global warming and Shell and Chevron. That's not how it happens, right? Like that's not. Duras says, I don't have a fear of earthquakes. We're living on the first floor here in Mexico City. They hit different. My building gives me the whoosh and the whoosh. And I'm like, all right now. On the very bad one here, I could hear the pipes in my kitchen doing stuff. And I was like, if I do too much, I'm going to leave. But I've never left this building for an earthquake. Because I told you where I am. I'm not going downstairs. In the stairs? And then back up again? No. Yes. If you have any mobility challenges, keep that in mind when you go to a new city. When you go to Mexico City, the earthquake alarm goes off like every other week at least. Are you going to go down all those flights of stairs? I'm not. I'm just going to be upside the stairs in my apartment. The fire alarm went off the other day. And me and some ladies down the hall opened the door, looked outside, looked at each other, and we're like, I don't know. You don't know? I don't know. And we're back inside. Like, if it's a fire, we'll figure it out. Smart, no, but whatever. Klatsiaga says the pipe's cracking. It was a very, very bad earthquake a couple of years ago. Maybe 2 years ago. It was at night. It wasn't very, very bad. Nothing, but it was worse than some of the ones we've had recently. Yeah, there's an earthquake alarm. If the earthquake is centered in Mexico City, the alarm doesn't go off. The alarm goes off if it's centered somewhere else and there's enough time for a warning. However that system works, wherever the other alarms are, if the earthquake starts somewhere else, it gives us time for the alarms to go off here. If it starts here, like the ones this week, the alarm doesn't go off because there's no time for that warning. So Jade, I was saying earlier, I'm about the 30th floor. So I'm not going down the stairs. I'm not saying you should follow my advice. I'm saying you should be better than me and not live up this high unless you're ready to go down the stairs all the time. Sassy Travel Goddess says, I grew up living below sea level with hurricane parties, so I'm accustomed to disasters. I know it's not the same, but I'm still coming to Mexico. The first time when I lived in Virginia, I think that very first year where we had the snow, before the snow, we had a hurricane. I lived in Charlottesville. There was a hurricane that was supposed to come, and everybody who was from the area was like, hurricane party. And there was like an ice luge, and there were people were barbecuing on the porch. And I was like, I'm a California girl. I don't quite understand. There's a hurricane. Now I have been in a very, very bad hurricane in Jamaica, where a lot of people died. Hurricane Gilbert, if you know it. And it was bad. Like there were bodies floating in the water. Bad, like around. But yeah, when I was in Virginia, they were having hurricane parties. I was like, y'all live a different life. Because this is not something I would never be like, oh, it's a hurricane. Come over, we're having a cookout. Like, what is happening here? But yeah, know the natural disasters and know what you can tolerate, and know that thinking you can time them doesn't work, because we had 3 this week, and it's not hurricane season. So yeah. Everyone's worked up about earthquakes, yet no one worries about the fact that firefighters can put out a fire above the 7th floor. I did not know that fact, but also like, okay. Tornadoes are ones for me. I hear a tornado and I'm like, I'm not that girl. I don't want to live anywhere where there are tornadoes. All right, y'all, I think we did it. No one else came up with anything else. I think Darag got us on talking about the weather or the natural disasters. I think those are the things I would like you to think about before you move to Mexico. Oh, I was 8 years old when Hurricane Gilbert. I was maybe 9. I was somewhere between 8 and 10 when Hurricane Gilbert happened. And we couldn't go outside for days because of the water. And you can't step in that water because there's bodies in there. And animals. There's humans and animals and feces and all the stuff in the water. So you can't, like, you're just inside if you survived it. It was a really bad one. That was not a great memory for me. Anyhoodle, thank you guys for hanging out. Next week, we'll talk about something else. The year is ending on us soon, isn't it? Whatever. Anyhow, I will talk to you guys next week. If there's anything particular. Oh, wait. If you're part of my YouTube membership, we're going to talk to each other in 45 minutes at 1:30 Eastern time. I'm going to put an invitation in the membership page right now. If you're not a part of the membership, you can join by pressing the join button on my YouTube page, probably right under this video. And we'll be Zooming in maybe about half an hour of a Zoom at 1:30 p.m. Talk to you guys soon. It's been fun. And we'll do this again next week. Bye.